Have you ever heard of alchemy? Well, alchemy is really important to understand and to learn because the people that control us, the people that control the world, the elite members of society, they have been using alchemy to transmute the mind of us, the minds of us people on this earth, to transmute them from a mind that believes in a creator to a mind that believes in science. And our science today is so embedded in occult symbology, occult numerology. It's really unbelievable when you start digging into it. Now, what does alchemy have anything to do with this? Because if you've heard of alchemy, you've probably heard of several different stories. And one of the most popular depictions of alchemy is turning lead into gold. So it's taking a material and it's transmuting that material into a higher form of a material, right? So the idea of alchemy, and there's that story too of I believe it's a king who wanted a sword that would be able to destroy anyone and any enemy. So he went to an alchemist and he asked for them to make him this sword, this magical sword. And the alchemist then taught him all about alchemy. He taught them all the methods. He taught him all this stuff about alchemy. And by the end, by the time he learned and he became enlightened with all this information, he had no use for the sword anymore because he realized the sword is not the answer. So there's that story. So alchemy originally, I'm sure, was intended for good purposes, but it has been turned against us. And I mean, it talks about this stuff in a lot of different biblical texts too, how pharmakia, they use the word pharmakia, is going to be, the downfall of society. And all of the pharmakia is science, let's face it. And all of this science today that we are taught, all of this nonsense, all of these lies that date way back. I mean, since the beginning of this crap, since 1903 when the Board of Education was created, John D. Rockefeller, he started taking over. His indoctrination system is everywhere now, all over the world, and it's the John D. Rockefeller indoctrination system. All right, they have been teaching us nonsense forever. And how can you turn alchemy from that? Okay, so turning lead into gold, I get that. But how do you transmute the mind of a person? Well, it's a triune relationship, a trinity type of a relationship. So like a soul, a body, and a spirit. If they can capture your soul, your body, and your spirit, they can transmute it. How did they do this? You got to think, they've been worshiping, back in the day, they worshiped the moon. They had all these lunar deities that they worshiped, right? Now, when we were racing the Soviet Union to get to the moon, we had a war over the moon, right? All of this allure, all of this stuff over the moon. The moon was being paid super attention to. We were creating these rockets that were supposedly trying to go to the moon. And then we landed on the moon, right? We landed on the moon. Kennedy promised we'd get to the moon, and we landed on the moon miraculously, even though every attempt that Kennedy was involved in before he was gone, they failed. All the attempts. You can Wikipedia this too. They failed. And then all of a sudden, Kennedy's out of the picture, and now they start making these amazing attempts, and they start making it off the launch pad, and they're doing all this fancy stuff. Amazing, yoo-hoo, woo-hoo, yay. Right? They used this idea of the moon and entertainment, all of this science fiction entertainment, which is what science is. It's science fiction. It's all nonsense. They use this to transmute our minds into thinking, for one thing, we're going to the moon. We're able to do these crazy things. And for two things, they're now using all of this ancient lunar worship on us, and it worked. And we have been completely mind-boggled into these ideas that don't exist, that have turned us into these robot people. And if you think that we're spinning on a ball, we're just we're not, in my opinion. You know, we're just not. We're not spinning on a magical ball. All right, it's much actually more simple than that. You know, we live on a flat plane. The sun circles around us like this. It's a giant Earth, and the sun circles around us. Hence why sundials work, because they don't work if the sun is going up and over. They work when the sun goes around us. That's how a sundial works in the first place. They have lied about everything. Why do they do this? Why do they transmute our mind into this? Well, for one thing, they know that you can trap the human spirit. You can become, in your whole life on this earth becomes this hamster wheel rat race that is total nonsense. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Because if you're out of that and you don't live in that trap, that mind trap, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And when you're out of the mind trap, it's almost amazing that you were ever in it, because it's unbelievable. You can't believe that you were ever stuck in this mind trap. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's because you're most likely stuck in the mind trap. And I really pray that you start to figure it out. All right, you start to learn how to decode some things, how to use some basic forms of numerology, start to look into our history, his story, right? Start to understand that a lot of these stories that we get are just that. They're stories, and they're all embedded and encoded in numerology, occult satanic numerology, and they're all to drive your mind further down that rabbit hole so that you're just driving away in that hamster wheel all day long, never looking, never thinking, never trying to understand things. You're just in it, in that cycle. It's incredible, you know. And it didn't start with the Rockefeller indoctrination system. It didn't. That's just the most recent version. You know, we're worshiping whatever he wants us to worship. And it's time for a change. It's time for us to all wake up. So with that being said, I love you all. And of course, this is satire and for entertainment purposes only. And I'm going to post this on my YouTube, on my Rumble, which is with the Sun 33, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Because TikTok is crazy now. Ridiculous. They just took down my 80,000 plus channel. Absurd. I love you all. Entertainment.